Dr. Long. The third resolution we're gonna do first because Dr. Long needs to drop off to be on a presser with the mayor. So we're gonna switch the agenda around a little bit, okay?
Oh, wow.
Hello, Kanowski, can you hear me?
Benny?
Are you talking about my beard that is gone?
You're a new man.
I lost
I did
I
like
lost
this
the
one.
bottle to my wife. That's what happened.
I just looked up and went, wow.
I withstood as much as I could, but I'm telling you, I had to throw the white flag. I guess the election
Wow.
didn't help me, you know.
Okay, so did you hear what I had
Good morning, Penny.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. We have to be patient.
I know. I'm lighting candles, saying prayers, everything in the arsenal of a Catholic.
Oh my God, crazy.
Okay, so Fanny, we do have quorum. I don't see text.
He's going to be on a call-in. It will be his.
So Fanny, I was just saying that we do have quorum. We have Dr. Katz, we have Jose, Miss Lowe, Scott French, and Sally on the phone. Frida would be joining in a few minutes. Resolution number 3 with Dr. Long. We're gonna consider that resolution first. Dr. Long needs to drop off to be on a presser with the mayor. He's just
Okay.
having some connectivity issues. As soon as he joined, we would start because I need him on the line so he can go quickly. We have a very packed agenda and we have back-to-back meetings until about 2 o'clock today. So we're gonna keep everything very tight. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so, Dr. Long, I need Ted to.
He's
get-
going to be on cell on a 646 number, should be
it's
jumping
not
into
here.
it.
It's not here.
Okay. It's 646-398-1466. That's the number that I believe.
So we're gonna start, and as soon as I see him show up, we're gonna switch to him and let you know, okay? And we switch to him.
And I have to do my remarks anyway
And you have
first,
to
so.
do your remarks.
Yeah. And we can start with that. Just tell me where I have to start, Coalition.
Okay, after you hear the recording, said the meeting is now recorded, wait 5 seconds and start. Okay, good.
Ready to go. Yeah, once you record, we're good.
Thank you, everybody. Good morning. I would like to call this meeting to order. And the first item in the agenda is the adoption of the minutes from our October 8th meeting. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to be calling, should I go with, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed? The resolution passed. So thank you, everybody. Now, the second item is the Senior Vice President report. Christine, please.
Good morning. Last week was Healthcare Facilities and Engineering Week, and I would like to take a moment to thank all our staff, including our directors of engineering, trade staff, energy team, and capital team, for all the great work they do each day to ensure our facilities can operate safely and continue to provide excellent services to our patients. The theme of the week was Healthcare Facilities Heroes. We facilitated an all-staff event with Sheldon McLeod at Kings County and with Manny Saez, our AVP for Facility Ops, and Marcus Lewis, our Assistant Director of the Energy Team, to recognize the amazing work of our trade staff working in collaboration with our energy team led by Cyril Toussaint. The work completed by our energy team with our on-site team in the area of on-site electrical generation has allowed Kings County to save approximately 1.4 million over the past 2 fiscal years, and over 60% of our energy is produced on site, drastically helping us reduce our carbon emissions system-wide. Our King's trade staff attended the event, and each was provided with a t-shirt in recognition of Facility Management Week. Trade staff at all of our facilities also were provided with the same shirt to recognize the facility ops teams. Our union trade staff were essential in keeping our staff, patients, and buildings safe during the initial period of the COVID pandemic, and they continue to work to ensure our buildings can provide a safe environment for patients and staff in the event of a second COVID surge. They are an indispensable part of our workforce, and I'm deeply appreciative of all the work they have done and continue to do. My colleague and partner, Kim Mendez, our EITS leader, has joined us today to present their resolutions on their data center plan. I want to personally thank Kim for her amazing team, who we partner with constantly as we are standing up and completing our projects. She and Jeff have led multiple projects, and they've helped us swiftly stand up projects to cross the finish line. This month, we are looking forward to supporting Dr. Long and Gotham in bringing online our first COVID Center of Excellence in the Bronx. This project is being completed by DDC and H&H's designer and our EITS and supply chain team. It's been a whirlwind and a compressed schedule that the entire team should be proud of. I'm very thankful to our team, our DDC colleagues, and our private sector partners getting the work done day and night. I am especially excited by the fact that across the board, many of the key project delivery leaders, both here at OFD, our design team, Gotham Health, and at DDC, are women. It's been truly inspiring to see the hard work and dedication of all involved. From the OFD family, this includes our lead, Starlene Scott, as well as Janelle Phillip, Tracy Bowes, Denisha Simpson-Franklin, as well as our managers in all of the respective departments we work with. Our capital budget team has closed out fiscal year 20 with a record level commitment rate. Just a team of 3, they have processed 103 million in CPs, with 25 million being approved and 78 million currently submitted to OMB and under review. Our capital payments team has also been extremely busy ensuring our vendors are paid so they can continue doing more great work for our system. In fiscal year 20, they processed approximately 290 million in capital payments, totaling 1,900 transactions, and registered a record number of purchase orders, contracts, and work orders. Today, we will be presenting to the committee 3 lease agreements, 1 license agreement, and 2 energy project resolutions. And these contract resolutions are a culmination of efforts by our legal, real estate, and energy teams. To accommodate T2's ever-evolving challenges, we are moving the 3rd resolution to first so that Dr. Long can meet a challenging schedule in front of him today. I'm happy to take any questions now prior to starting resolutions, and I'm hoping that Dr. Long has been able to join. Any questions from the committee?
I just have a comment, and I really appreciate your sharing with us information of your team, the composition and the demographics of your team, and how well they have executed, and how much they have contributed to the success of your program. So I commend you for being so inclusive in your approach to bringing the best talent possible to provide the best services to the system and to our patients. So I just want to congratulate you and your team. I know quite a few of those individuals, and I know that they are just amazing. So and that speaks to you as a leader to attract the best and the brightest. And I also speak to Dr. Katz for his leadership and to providing the support and the environment for everybody to succeed. So I just want to thank you for everything that you're doing and your team is doing.
Thanks,
Thank
Benny.
you so much. Thank you. So we're just going to do a triple confirmation that Dr. Long, if he made it onto the call.
Now we can go to the first and then bring him in when he comes in. Is that okay, Colisha?
Ted texted me. He said he's on the call. It's Menji. He may be muted or double muted.
Oh, okay.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Now we can hear you.
Hello, everybody. Good to hear everybody. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So we're going to go ahead and move to our third resolution. This is a resolution authorizing the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation, the system, to execute 5 successive one-year revocable license agreements with the New York City Human Resources Administration, HRA, for the use and occupancy of approximately 9,930 square feet of space at 11402 Guy Brewer Boulevard, Borough of Queens, known as the South Jamaica Multi-Service Center, to operate various ambulatory healthcare services managed by Gotham Health, Gotham, and a Women, Infants, and Children's Program, the WIC program, managed by New York City Hospitals, Queens Hospital Center, the facility, at an occupancy fee of $25 per square foot, a $2 per square foot utility surcharge, and a $1 per square foot seasonal cooling charge for the total of $203,094.25 per year, and a 5-year total of $1,015,471.25 for the Gotham space, and a $67,497.25 per year, and a 5-year total of $337,486.25 for the WIC program space.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, this is Alicia.
Thank you.
Before we get into discussion, Scott French.
So, Dr. Long, are you going to be presenting?
Hold on, Finesse.
Yes. So thank you for having me today. I'm sorry I can't be there in person. There's a lot going on with COVID, and I'm running around the city. But I'll be brief with my presentation here today. So this is our clinic.
Ted, can you please hold? Hold on, Ted.
Oh, sorry.
They're not hearing you.
I can hear you, Ted.
You can hear me? Okay, so, Scott French, please recuse yourself. This is a item with HRA, so Scott French would not be able to vote on this item. Okay, let the record, the court reporter please note that Scott French would be recusing. Okay, thank you. Dr. Long, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, Ted, go ahead. We could go ahead and start.
Okay, great. Just to make sure, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so I'm on moving from slide 1 to slide 2, entitled Backgrounds, the first of the background slides. So you can see here a picture of the building. This is NYC HRA. This is our...
Ted, just 1 second. I don't think we are seeing the presentation. Colisha, could you share it, please? It was there before.
We're having a little technical glitch. It'll be coming in a minute.
Okay.
Hold on, Ted,
Okay,
Ted, we're going to tell.
I can talk it through.
Okay. I know, but
No
the
problem.
committee needs to see it. So sorry, hold on.
Oh, no problem.
Even though we have a copy in our material, so if Ted would like to continue until it comes, we can look at it in our materials. It is available. Is
Yes,
that okay
it
with
is
everybody?
in the
Jose
material.
and everybody? Yeah, I see Frida saying okay. So Ted, why don't you continue and just tell us which slide you're looking at or talking about?
Sure, no problem at all. So I'm overall on what should be page 34 of your packet, which is slide 2 of the presentation, entitled Background, the first of the background slides. What you can see here is the visage of the South Queens Clinic. This is also, as Christine said, the Women, Infants, and Children WIC Center as well. So this is the HRA building, and this is the building where people enter into our clinic and where we provide the care through Gotham Health. I will now I'll tell you what we do in the clinic. So I'm going to select the next slide, which is the second background slide. Totality, there is 9,930 square feet of space at the multi-service center. Gotham Health occupies 7,453 square feet of the space on the first and second floor. There's 2 types of primary care that we provide there: pediatrics and obstetrics and gynecology. We have more than 2,600 annual visits at the site. And I'll note in terms of just how things are with COVID now, This area in particular is a very important area that has been hit hard by COVID and has seen some uptick.
Okay. You want to go to the next slide? The
Ted, we can't hear you. Okay, go to slide 2.
Oh, can you hear me now?
yes.
Yes.
Where did I get cut off, if I can ask? Did you hear my part about COVID?
You were starting to say it was hit hard, and then we lost you.
Yes.
Okay. I promise I'll be brief, but I just wanted to say that this area in particular is important because it was hit hard by COVID and is one of the areas that's continued to see upticks in Queens. So it's more important than ever that we provide primary care and in particular easy access to obstetrics and gynecology care for women, especially women that are pregnant. So I also want to note on the WIC side of things here, the program serves 2,700 participants in about 2,477 square feet of space. Okay, next slide. This slide here goes over the occupancy fee for you. I'll read you the high points here, which are $25 per square foot and $2 per square foot utility surcharge and $1 per square foot seasonal cooling charge. We lay out here the 5-year total, and I'll give you the 5-year total for both sites, and that again is the Gotham Health site and the WIC site, and that's $1,352,957 million. And I can go into more detail if you don't have the slide in front of you about the utilities and annual totals for the respective Gotham and WIC, but that's the total for both of them put together. And then finally, we have here a map just showing where the location is with respect to Queens Hospital.
I do want to note, we also have Dean Mahaltis from Queens on the line and can speak to, he'll be helping on the other WIC site resolution, but he's also available for Q&A in addition to Dr. Long.
Yeah. So in that case, do we need to read it again, Kalisha? I believe that Christine already did it. So let's open to questions because I know that time is of essence. Is any other member of the board have a question? I will go one by one. Dr. Katz?
No questions. Thank you, Finney.
Thank you. Chairman Jose Pagan?
No questions, thanks.
Well, Scott French is recused. Sally Pinheiro Hernandez?
Okay, no questions, Benny.
Thank you, Sally. Frida Wang?
No questions, thanks, Benny.
Okay, so now we are going to take a.
Hello, is here.
Oh, Barbara, you're here. Oh, okay, I couldn't see you. Sorry, Barbara.
No questions.
Okay, I'm just going to put in my list. I think you're coming through the phone. Okay, thank you, Barbara. Sorry about that. I really apologize.
Problem.
So, what about if we take the vote to move forward to the whole Board of Health and Hospital? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Okay, the resolution has passed to be forwarded to the board in our next meeting. Thank you so much. Christine, which one do we want to do now next? I know you can order.
So I think we'll go to the data center, which was planned to be the 2 resolutions as well as that presentation.
Okay, so we're going back. Okay, that's good. I just
Yeah.
want to go because I have the document here. I want to make sure that we're doing. Okay. And are you the one that you were going to read the resolution?
No, this will be led by Kim Mendez.
Yeah. Okay. Kim, please.
So I'm going to read both resolutions and we will have a brief overview by myself and then Jeff. Sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
I'm going to read both resolutions as they apply to the one ask, and then I'll provide a brief overview and hand it to Jeff Lutz, our Chief Technology Officer, to present the request. First resolution is authorizing New York City Health and Hospital Corporation, the system, to execute a 5-year and 3-month lease agreement with 4 2-year renewal options solely at the system's discretion with QTS Investment Properties, Piscataway, LLC, the owner for the system's use and discretion of space at 101 Possumtown Road in Piscataway, New Jersey, in the owner's data storage facility, the PDC, which shall be sufficient for 100 data storage racks or cabinets, with the provision of 150 kilowatts of power after ramp up, with the right for to expand space and power, and the right to reduce the system's use of space and power and services as detailed in the summary of economic terms attached hereto at the cost not to exceed $14,820,000. Second resolution, authorizing New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation, the system, to execute a 5-year and 3-month lease agreement with 4 2-year renewal options solely at the system's discretion with Surveillance LLC, a subsidiary of Cyrus One, the owner for the system's use, an occupancy of space at 6 Norton Place, Norwalk, Connecticut, and the owner's data storage facility, the NDC, which shall be sufficient for 100 data storage racks or cabinets with the provision of 450 kilowatts of power after ramp up, with the right to expansion, space, and power, the right to reduce the system's use of power, space, and service terms as detailed in the summary of economic terms attached hereto at cost not to exceed $17,160,000. I'd like to provide a very brief strategic overview, and then we'll hand over to Jeff Lutz. Our current data centers are at SunGard and Jacoby, nearing the end of their useful life. EITS is strategically aligning the migration of our data center hosting sites with our planned and scheduled annual infrastructure system refresh. The migration to new hosting sites for our data and associated requested budget is independent of the system request for equipment, equipment refresh and its associated budget. The data center migration or the move to new leasing sites in and of itself is not dependent on purchasing new equipment. Currently, New York City Health and Hospitals EIT, we replace our equipment, AKA the refresh, when it is out of date, which is budgeted for every year. We anticipate that there will be equipment that will be eligible for an upgrade, and to avoid having to move the new equipment, we would place the new equipment in the new data center sites and decommission the old equipment, thereby avoiding moves and associated costs with those moves. Our goal is to leverage and time the upgrades as much as possible to minimize having to move equipment between data centers, thereby cutting down on any outside costs. I will now turn it over to Jeff Lutz, our Chief Technology Officer, who will present our application to enter into a lease agreement for data center hosting. Jeff?
Good morning, and thank you, Kim.
Sorry about that.
So I'm going to go ahead and start here on the presentation. Thank you for your time this morning to the board. So first slide here, what this represents is our network and how each of our facilities today talk to our data centers. At the very center, you will see our Jacoby and our SunGard data center. And this is where all of our applications, such as Epic, for example, email, are hosted today, as well as it provides us access to the internet. And for people that are working remotely, this is how they access back into our systems as well. So just to give you guys an understanding of where these data centers play and how they connect and what type of service that they provide us. I'm going to move to the next slide. So to give a little bit of background of how we arrived at this, in September of 2019, we signed a 3-year renewal with SunGard, our current hosting provider. And at that time, there were some questions, not only around SunGard, but around our data center strategy and where we were going forward. So At that time, we engaged with Gartner, who is a industry leader. They're a resource that Health and Hospitals has used for more than the last 10 years to help us not only with IT strategy, but as a subject matter expert in exploring IT resources and as well as supply chain and procurement. And so we leveraged them to come in and help us with a study for our existing data centers. And we went through numerous options, and I'll show you the results of that study on the next slide. But essentially what they came out and recommended was that we explore the option of moving to new data centers, that would be something that was most feasible for us. So given that, what we did next is leveraging Gartner and their experience, and they've done this similarly with other health systems, including LA County, as well as the city of New York is also engaged with the same team for these same type of study and resources and search as subject matter experts. And we also leveraged Newmark, Knight and Frank, who is the realtor. They also have a service and specialty in data centers as well. They're familiar with Health and Hospitals and helping us to find and procure buildings such as 50 Water and some of those other resources. So leveraging those two, we came up with certain requirements that we wanted to look at to make sure that we address not only in the deficiencies of our data centers today, but as well to make sure that they are poised for us to align to a strategy going forward. So some of those are that we wanted to make sure that they were within close proximity to the city of New York. We also want to make sure that the two data centers are 50 miles apart. Currently, they are 12 miles apart today. We also wanted to make sure that they're purpose-built, that these are that they're not shared with warehouses or office buildings where they could increase risk. And also looking to the future, and I'll talk a little bit more about this, talking about cloud connectivity, a way for many vendors, you hear a lot about this, of moving to the cloud and leveraging those services. At the same time, we wanted a more mature customer portal. We did put together a solicitation, sent that out to all of the providers through Newmark, to all the qualified vendors in the area. We received 15 responses. Unfortunately, there were no MWBE responses or any MWBE qualified providers in those that did not respond either. From going through the evaluation, which included site visits, in many online interviews, looking through all of their details of their electronic drawings and their redundancy, we've selected QTS and CyrusOne. They are, and I'll touch more on to those here next. On the next slide, this talks about the recommendation that came out of the Gartner study and a few things that I will highlight on here. It talks about the move. It'll take 2 to 3 years. For us, it's part of the progression. The other piece that we wanted to be able to do is this will allow us some operational cost savings. It mitigates some other risks that we have today. There's a flood potential at SunGard. It also allows us to have greater flexibility in right-sizing our data centers. So again, as we make a move to the cloud, our presence in the data center will shrink. So our current agreements do not allow us to do that. And at the same time, these partners are much better prepared, not only to give us a better avenue to the cloud, but to adjust to the ever-evolving needs for both physical and IT-related security as well, to protect our data and our patient information and our employee information as well. Next slide here. Again, these are the details of the breakdown behind Jacoby and SunGard of some of the areas that they had found or identified. With Jacoby, well, the biggest area is we would have to be investing a lot of money for us to meet these growths and to build in some redundancy as well into the system. But I will touch on a little bit later. We will not be leaving Jacoby entirely. We will look to leverage it for other use to help support the Jacoby hospital system that is there, the campus, and their buildings providing connectivity to the users. SunGuard, as we had talked about previously in September, they are very expensive. And they also are located within a floodplain, and as well between the two data centers currently, as I mentioned, they're 12 miles apart. So there's a lot of concerns within what we have to meet our needs going forward. The next piece that I want to touch on as part of it, and I touched on earlier, as part of that study, one of the things that Gartner had talked about is moving to the cloud. And what this slide just touches on is that this is something that they're also seeing as they work with other healthcare clients. It's also an industry trend. So you'll see us start to leverage, and this puts us in a position to better leverage these cloud services as they are offered going forward. So it'll be part of our strategy. It becomes part of our fabric and who we are, as Kim has started to really align us in that direction. So to get to the two data centers that we have selected, as I mentioned, QTS and CyrusOne. QTS is in Piscataway, New Jersey, and CyrusOne is in Norwalk, Connecticut. As the crow flies, they are 79 miles apart. Inside of those specific facilities, there are two current healthcare customers today. NYU is currently at the QTS facility, and Yale New Haven Hospital System is also hosted out of CyrusOne. The other piece that I want to draw your attention to on this slide is around the rate, which you see at the bottom. So what's a little bit different for data center hosting versus a traditional lease agreement is that here they charge per kilowatt versus per square foot, as you would see in a traditional lease agreement. So for our QTS, we have $105 per kilowatt usage and $109 at CyrusOne. And the biggest difference between that is the difference in price of electricity between New Jersey and Connecticut. The next two items that are on there, the power usage effectiveness and the kilowatt hours, those are rates. So they also pass along the cost of the electricity that they provide to us. So this is how they basically break out that calculation, since it's a shared data center with other clients that are in there. The last piece is what they call cross connects. That is how we talk. So for example, in our SunGuard data center today, we have a connection between NYU and ourselves in order to facilitate some of the services and sharing of information, such as at Bellevue. So we get charged essentially $250 a month today for that same type of connection between those two data centers. I'm going to move to the next slide. So aside from the rate, the rest of the agreements are the same. And as we mentioned previously, these are 5-year, 3-month agreements with 4 2-year renewal terms. The first 3 months are actually rent-free. Gives us time to build out and put in the infrastructure at that time. The first 18 months is a sliding scale that we will build up as we move out, or as we move into those data centers and build up the environment. The good news too is what's a little bit different with these agreements is we pay for what we use. Versus today with SunGuard, we're in a locked rate, no matter how much our data center may move up or move down. So as we shrink, if we move to cloud, we would still pay the same rate. We're here. We actually have the ability, we would pay less, but we also actually have the ability to go through and reduce our space needs as well. After 24 months and 48 months, we can go in and do those types of reductions. At the same time, after the 5 years, we can also renew. At that, we can also do a reduction, and we also have the choice of whatever rate is lower, whatever current rate that we're working at, or whatever is the 100% of the fair market value as determined by Newmark and the vendor. If for whatever reason we choose not to renew, we actually also have a month-to-month that it's at 125% of the last month's rent for 12 months, which would allow us, if in the event that we wanted to move or decommission that data center. So the only other pieces I'll highlight there is that we are locked in at a 2.5% annual increase. That only affects that per kilowatt hour rate, or the kilowatt rate, the $105 or $109. And we also have the ability to refuse anybody building in around where our equipment is in the event that we do want to expand. So we can allow for seamless expansion as well. Move to the next slide. To give you a better idea of what the costs are, so what the top part is our existing cost today for SunGuard on the right. So you see annually we pay SunGuard about $3.2 million. So if we took everything same, just picked up everything the same inside of SunGuard and moved it to QTS, and we also did the same for everything that's in Jacoby and moved it into Cyrus 1, you would see that we would have an annual cost of $2.9 million. So we essentially get 2 data centers for the price of 1. Now, I want to also stress that this just brings home how expensive SunGuard is. We are actually getting better service. These are 2 highly nationally recognized providers. The data center that we're going to for QTS, they do a lot of lead improvements. They're very about self-sustaining power. These are data centers that are setting the standard for the industry. So we are moving to a better location than what we have today, as well as their services that are provided. And I'll touch on that a little bit more. So I want to make sure that we understand it's a double win. At the same time, what I want to, if you go to the lower part, so like any type of move, we estimate that we're going to gain some efficiencies. We won't know how much efficiencies we will gain. We have a partner that we're currently working with in Presidio to help us as a systems integrator. They will help us to design the new data center, plan the moves accordingly, and not only to the data centers, but as well as to move to the cloud. So we will gain, so we'll actually have a smaller footprint. So right now, conservatively, we figure we will be, so today we're at 750 kilowatts. We figure we would be at no more than 650 kilowatts. You saw the agreements are actually for 450. We feel we can get down into those ranges, but so it basically breaking out the cost for just the 650 kilowatt, that brings us into $2.5 million annually for the 2 data centers. So again, an additional cost savings for us with getting better services. So it just, the story keeps getting better as it relates to that cost for us. This slide, we just want to highlight, this is about how long we figure that these moves will take. I'll touch on how we're going to do those moves quickly. The first move we would do is for SunGuard out of QTS, or to QTS rather, move out of SunGuard. And the reason is we would want to make sure that we are out of there before our agreement expires in October of 2022. And we feel we have plenty of time to meet that deadline, so we would not have to go through subsequent renewals and can finish through that. And then we would, in parallel, but slightly lagged behind, work on Jacoby. So this last slide here, I just want to, I'll touch on a few things. As Kim had mentioned, our goal is to make this as cost effective and seamless to the end users as possible. Just to give you an understanding, today, much of our environment is what we call virtualized. So the servers, even though we do have hardware that's running in there, the applications themselves are running within the computers. It's not tied to the physical box. So what that allows us is we can stand up the new hardware in the new data center, and then we would do a failover to the new data center and then shut down and power down the equipment. This is very similar to what we do today with Epic. We do that between our 2 data centers almost on a quarterly basis. And with Epic, we can actually do the technical failover within about 8 minutes. And again, it's a very seamless process to the users. The other piece, though, that as I mentioned, we have the 3 months that are free, and the first part that allows us to stand up the environment. So what we would be doing during that first part of that stand up is providing the connectivity. So if you go back to that drawing, now those drawings, those data centers would appear and be connected at that center of the circle. So that's the first part. We would be putting them onto our network, and then that way they get all of the security and all the protections that our current informations and systems have today. So it's internal to us, and it looks the same. So we know that we're keeping things well within our four walls virtually or electronically, if you will, and providing those same protections. At the same time, just so that everybody's aware, both data centers, they maintain all of the industry standard, and that was part of what we had asked them, our requirement for not only what they call SOC compliance, but PCI, which is credit card related, ISO 27001, and then, but more importantly, high trust or high tech, which are both HIPAA related. So these are both maintained by these vendors, and these are annually certified and reviewed. And we have the ability also to go through and verify that with them. Each of these are also, as I mentioned, private, dedicated. They are, dedicated buildings, purpose-built, with 24/7 physical security that's on there. And then the last piece that I want to touch on a little bit is Jacoby and what we'll be doing with that. Essentially with Jacoby, as I mentioned, while it won't be a data center itself, it will actually serve as what we call a main distribution frame, or we commonly reference an MDF so it essentially will provide all the network connectivity for the Jacoby campus. Each of the facilities today have an MDF. They actually have two. So this, in order to provide redundancy and the most uptime for our end users. And so as the data center is today, it would serve very well in that purpose, would minimize any of the upgrades that we would need to do, because the resiliency and the requirements for an MDF is different than a data center. But there's also the option that we will be able to give back some of the other, whether it's space or services, so gain some additional efficiencies, as these MDFs traditionally leverage more of the hospital systems. So for example, for generators and emergency power, where today we have separate resources for that. And again, that'll be part of the exercise that we go through with Presidio and our systems integrator, and part of the plan of what we would have for that system and part of our future migration. So in summary, again, what we're asking for QTS, a 5-year contract expiring in April of 2026, 4 2-year renewal options. So the total contract value over that 13 years would be $14,820,000. Cyrus 1, a similarly structured contract, but that would start later and expire in August of 2026. And that value for the total 13 years would be $17,160,000. Thank you for your time. If there's any questions.
Thank you. I just want to open it up. Thank you for your presentation, very detailed, and provide us a lot of information on the planning and the work that you are doing to ensure that the system continue to function at a high efficiency and effectiveness possible. And as we have seen through the pandemic, how important it was your role of ensuring that we are able to provide the services that we needed to in a safe manner. So thank you so much, and thank you for thinking ahead, looking both from the technology perspective as well as the financial perspective. So I would like to open it up first to question. Dr. Katz, any questions?
This is Matt Stigler.
Matt is his representative. He had to
he
drop
dropped
off
off.
for presser.
Okay. Sorry about that. Matt, are you representing Dr. Katz? Do you have any questions? Sorry about that.
I am. No questions from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Jose Pagan, please.
So what happens, quick question, what happens if other clients that are using the same vendors, they suffer disruptions, get hacked? At these
I'm
facilities?
sorry, could
Yeah, so what
you
happens?
repeat it?
Yeah, what happens if other clients using the same vendors, the same facilities get disrupted, hacked in any way?
Oh, good question. So we do not share a network with any of the other clients that are in that facility. So So that physically different wires, different connections, all the way out to, so our wide area network in that diagram is completely closed. It's not shared with anybody. As well as within that facility itself, there's physical security. It's a cage is what we call it. And that it really just looks like fencing that is put up and it's locked. And the only people that have access to that is health and hospitals, as well as any of the local facility people, and that is all tracked and monitored. There's multi-factor, so biometrics and as well as card access in order to get to it. So everything is physically separated. So in the event that somebody does have an event, whether it's a hacking event or some other physical type of issue that's there, ours is protected from that, both from a physical separation there's no mixing across those ways.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Jose. Now I would like to ask, let's go to Barbara Lowe.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I think this is a very fine plan, and thank you so much for this detail. I just had one request. I'm thinking back to a day when we didn't have this kind of technology, but it was 911 and the enormous problems we had with telephones and communication systems. Are there one or two pointers you can give us about the utility during a disaster in New York City that we should be considering or know that this system will allow us to manage in terms of communication as far as we can go, even with customers?
Great question. And happy to come back with a few more details, but high level. So our phone system, including our call center today, actually leverages a lot of this technology. Will actually live in these data centers and leverage them today, as well as leverage a lot of the network redundancy that's built into there. So we build in currently two things that redundancy of pathways. So if you look at, if you could go, Dave, back to my diagram slide, there's multiple lines that go into each of those buildings. So we don't rely on just, so like you have your cable modem that comes into your house today and somebody goes onto the street and something happens to it. Think of it as we actually request that we get 3 different runs from that same vendor to our facility. So in the event something happens, and then at the same time, we actually also build vendor redundancy. So we have a second vendor. So in the event that your cable company goes down, we actually have, say, a Verizon Fios or somebody else that's a backup there for us that leverages it. So there's a lot of resiliency and redundancy, and these data centers allow us. They have those abilities to do that without a lot of extra cost to that. And then we also have some local survivability for the phone systems. We actually it will actually not only does the phone calls come into our data centers, but we actually have it built so that the phone calls can come also into, in the future, will come into so the facility itself. So if something happens to the data center, Bellevue will still be able to receive calls locally. It just gets redirected from going to Bellevue directly versus coming into the data center. So there's a lot of resiliency and redundancy that we can take advantage of working with our telecommunication partners and having this type of framework.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Now I would like to ask Scott French.
Thanks, Dave.
Please, in the line.
No questions from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Now, Sally Pinheiro Hernandez.
It's a terrific presentation, just operationally and financially. So many great savings. So congratulations to you all. I have no other questions.
Thank you, Sally. Frida Wang.
Hi, thank you, Fenny. I agree. I just want to say it's I remember our conversation on the SunGuard contract before, and you guys have done a great job here. The contract design, all of the contingencies and giving us the maximum flexibility. So really terrific. And just listening to the security and the redundancy, that's very important, obviously, in this day and age, and feel very good about what you guys have been planning for. So I do have a couple of questions. The first is I just wanted to understand the cost component. It sounds like there's two components of the charge, which is the kilowatt, I would call the lease amount that
Right.
you just, right. And that is, again, a great construct, paying for what we need and trying to get more efficient that way. But then the power usage, is that the 9 cents and the 11.5 cents per kilowatt hour, that's the electricity usage? Is that how that's charged?
Yes.
And
Yes.
is that just subject to whatever the current electricity charge is? Because you mentioned a 2.5% increase annually on the. Okay, so that's just the current electricity
It's a
rate.
pass through, correct, for what the utility rates are, and from what Newmark has told us for both of those areas, they've remained pretty steady for the last, a few years, and they haven't really seen much of a significant change on any of those, and they don't foresee any, significant change on those at this time.
And Jeff, that's included in the in calculations, or the 17 million and the 14 million is just on the lease amount?
Yeah, no, that's all included. All included. In my calculations that were there, that's all in, including all of that and any other of these cross connects or anything else of best of what we had today.
Got it.
So that's the upfront price.
Okay, great, terrific. And then there was one other component. There was a reference to funding required for modernization, and maybe during some of your foundational activities, there might be some costs. That is fun. How is that funding coming?
Oh, I apologize. You're referring to like Jacoby or some of those other ones too. There was that was some. So we did have, as part of our planning for DISRIP, and then we also have a city-funded network refresh that are currently in place. There were some capital improvements that we were looking at to make for Jacoby or some of those other areas that were funded through those already funded and planned projects.
Okay,
but that's not part of this
It's
proposal.
not part of, right. This is paid all out of OTPS today.
Right, but the transition, you put together a nice timeline on the 3-year transition from SunGard to the new facilities. Is there additional build out or capital outlay required that you need to buy, or it's all?
No. We actually, for any of even to build up the cage, as I mentioned for Dr. Pagan's question, we actually get that's where you see the line with improvement allowance. We get allowances. It's built into our agreement with them. They essentially give it to us for free to build up any of these. It's part of our agreement to build that structure out for us.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Frida. You sort of have on the question of the cash flow outlay. I know that you mentioned it, but I just want to kind of confirm for all of us in the call is that there is a separate budget items for the refresh of the equipment, and you are going to coordinate those upgrades so that they could, to the best possible, they could be placed directly into the new facilities instead of going to the old facilities and coming back and be moved to the new facilities. But I just want to kind of be a little bit clear in which even in situations in which you have to accelerate the deployment of the upgrade, those budgets are already allocated and separate from whatever is happening, is being approved today. Is that correct understanding?
Correct. Correct. Yes. Yeah, they are. They're planned, and they are part of what we would be doing regardless of whether we were moving data centers or not.
And if they have the flexibility to be kind of move forward or backward. The question is that if they are an annual allocation and you decide that you would like to upgrade a particular equipment earlier, in order to put it into the new location, those the funds allocated for the upgrades flexible enough to be moved around fiscal year?
Yeah, they are. They are, and that's part of the engagement with Presidio is to help us truly document so that we can see in time when those procurements would need to be made and when they'd be implemented, so that we could understand if there's any shift, to your point, within that budget, or see if there's an advantage to either getting something earlier or possibly push it later. So it will be very detailed, and we're happy to share that once we complete that engagement to really be able to show all that.
The interesting thing is that this is kind of a commentary on the IT industry, that no equipment is kept for very long.
Yes.
So just in the ordinary course, everything is being cycled out at regular, frequent intervals.
Yes.
So because of the pace of the replacement of the fleet of equipment we have, we can bring on the new equipment in the new location without accelerating the purchase schedule or incurring any additional costs.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it just depends. Sometimes you may have to shift it a little bit to meet the whatever constraints you have. So they move. So it's not as fixed as one would like to. But again, what I have clear is that the budget is there for the upgrades and is separate from this, and this is all taken care of. So thank you. The other question that I had, and I know that in your slide 11, actually, the wrong slide. In slide, it should have been, and the third, I guess. Yes, you didn't have a particular number. The third, you present your effort. No, I didn't go back. It's like where you got the background and summary, where you start talking about your procurement and your timeline. You do present kind of your efforts in terms of broadening the vendor list to include as much as possible MWBEs. My question is that, based on the findings from your procurement, no MWB kind of participated by responding, and you also did not find any qualified MWB provider. Can you elaborate in the second statement of not qualified MWB providers? Do you mean that can provide the whole package, or that they could not provide even support to a particular prime? Can you elaborate on that, please?
Sure. So good question. So this industry is the data center hosting industry is made up of either publicly traded companies or companies that are owned by private equity. So in the list of, as we surveyed those that met the requirements that were on there, there were no MWBEs that were even identified that were out there. I also kind of had reached out to Newmark just to see, but there were no MWEs that they knew of either within that industry.
Yeah, but my second, I understood that, and that was clear. My question is a little bit more nuanced. They were not MWBE that could provide support as a sub to any of these groups or in any function or work.
So there's no real services to it. We're essentially getting space and power is all that they're really providing to us within there.
Well, but you
So no opportunity
highlighted that you
to.
have some allocations for certain retrofit that you could do based on your needs. There is some physical work that may need to be done in the space.
Oh, but any of that, I guess that would come out of the opportunity of the data center move itself, right? Out of the project. To your point, if there's other work or whatever else that's there. Any of those items any of the other physical piece, say of standing up, is provided by that system itself, but it's very it's very small. There's not, once we kind of do it.
But you have always to take the first step. I know it's small, I know, but when we make some kind of blank statements that there is no possibility of anywhere to have any type of participation because they are publicly traded, they are private equity, they only provide a service. I think it behooves to us to really ask the question, are there, even small, it doesn't matter how small, are there opportunities in which these companies can look beyond what they can see with their own eyes to enhance opportunities? And I'm finding that maybe here they could have gone a little bit further in certain areas, even though it is small, it's like almost minuscule compared to the size of the contract. Sometimes showing goodwill opens the eyes, and there may be other opportunities that could be found.
We can certainly reach out and ask, and find out. I do know there are very particular. We can ask. We can certainly ask.
Everybody, and these large companies, they are very particularly, let me tell you, they are very comfortable with the way that they do business, and they don't want anybody to ask any questions. But I think we should ask the question. The answers that we may get may not be the answers that we want, and that is okay, but at least the questions are asked. So I really believe that if you go now to the budget, please. That will be a slide.
Yeah, yep. There we go. Oop.
No, I think it's slide 7 where you break it down.
This this is what the cost would look like. Yeah.
No, I'm saying 7. Yeah, here. So again, these are kind of limited room, very limited room here, but I do see a little bit of areas that there could be opportunities for these corporations to look. And like I said, here you may only have with UTS, maybe it's only the 137 and only a portion of that, but at least if they show a good faith on looking hard, and I'm not saying that it's easy, but looking hard on what opportunities may be there, I think that would be good if that type of information is at least provided before the board meeting.
And we'll certainly bring it up and talk to them about it and find out, to your point. So not a problem. We'll make sure to follow up with you after we have the conversations with them.
Okay, and just a comment, some of the things that I have seen in the past when we have these conversations is that the statement comes a little bit too generic, very difficult to ground it, very difficult to follow up. And I also have seen in other cases that the statements come grounded with real commitment that showcase that the companies really have thought about it. They just not have only given, cursory acknowledgement just to get things out of the way. So hopefully when we go back, we do get real concrete steps instead of just cursory. Yes, we are all for diversity. We are all for inclusion. We are all for providing opportunities. But at the end, nothing happens. And I know it's small, but any road starts with the first steps.
Yeah, agreed. And I know both of these, at least to me, these are both very progressive companies. I believe, I know at least one, I believe both are actually led, their CEOs are women led. So there may be, to your point, opportunities as we ask. So we will definitely follow up.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think I went to ready for questions, so maybe we just wanted to go with the vote. Is that okay, Coalition?
Yes, please call the votes.
Okay, Jose Pagan,
Yes.
Scott French,
Yes.
Barbara Lowe,
Yes.
Sally Pinheiro Hernandez. You were muted, but I think you said yes, if I could read your lips correctly. Okay. Matt Ziegler for Dr. Katz.
Yes.
Frida Wan.
Yes.
I'm Fenielski Peñamora. Vote conditional yes.
I'd like to win some, but the chances of that happening is slim. So.
Okay. I think, Matt, you may be speaking, so you may want to mute. So I give I don't know if that is a conditional yes, as long as we get answers to the questions on how we are going to include MWBs in real, meaningful way. Even smaller, doesn't matter how small it is. Okay. So this will be submitted to the board for their consideration. Next.
Our next resolution is authorizing New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation, the system, to sign a one-year lease extension with Dr. Mikhail Kantias, the landlord, for use of approximately 4,000 square feet of space at 7918 164th Street, Borough of Queens, to operate a supplemental food program for women, infant, and children's, the WIC program, managed by New York City Health and Hospitals Queens Hospital Center, the facility, at a base rent of $137,360 per year, or $34.34 per square foot, plus a common area maintenance CAM charge of $14,199.96 per year, and real estate taxes of approximately $38,416 per year, for a total annual occupancy cost of $975.96 or $47.49 per square foot, provided the system will not hold an option to renew the lease for an additional 4 years. I'm joined for this presentation by our interim CEO, Dean Mahaltis from Queens Hospital. Again, this is a WIC center. I'll let Dean talk a little bit about the benefits of this center and its close proximity to Queens Hospital. If we could go to the next slide, please. Dean, are you there? I see you, Dean, but we can't hear you. You might want to press *6. He's moving to the...
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. Good morning, everyone. So this is a WIC program that's been in existence for better than 20 years, the last 8 years at this particular location, servicing 3,600 participants, primarily, obviously, women, infant, and children who are at nutritional risk, and they provide services in terms of monitoring children's growth, nutritional education, breastfeeding support, and high-risk counseling intervention. The program it occupies 4,000 square feet, 2,000 on one floor and 2,000 on another. The key question here, this program has been around for quite a time and is supported by a grant from the Department of Health. Clearly, these grants are 5-year grants. The current one expires on September 30th, 2021. So the option here on the lease was to work out a deal that would allow us to not be at risk in terms of rent liability should the program, for any reason, and it's unlikely, not renew. In fact, we are already starting that renewal process. So it's a 1-year term with a 2.5% escalation, and then a 4-year renewal, knowing that by the time we get to that point, we will have a new term in terms of the grant itself. It's an excellent program. It's located right down the block from the hospital. It's part of our ambulatory care umbrella. It's part of the partnership we have with Gotham WIC over on Guy Brewer, but this one happens to be right down the block. And again, it's a very active program with a great deal of support for our adolescent, pediatric, and our women. Like I said, it's a 2.5% increase in the rent base. and everything else is commensurate to that. We are as I said, actively looking to renew the grant. So in all likelihood, we'll exercise the 4-year, but this protects us financially with a 1 and 4 option. I'll entertain any questions.
Thank you. I would like to go through the list. Jose Pagan? Any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Scott French?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Barbara Lowe?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Sally Pinheiro Hernandez?
You're slipping my name, Fanny.
Why?
It's okay, you can do it. I
know, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Ziegler?
Questions?
No questions? Freda Wang? Frida? Frida stepped out?
Frida dropped off, Fanny. We can move on. We have quorum.
Okay, thank you. I do have a question. This is Franesky. I have a question. If we can go back to the that slide. I just have a question. No, go back to the previous slide, please. Is that no the one that has the photo? Is that what this facility looks like?
Currently, yes, it is.
Is there a plan to upgrade? I just feel like, what kind of message are we giving to the community that we are serving on how we welcome them? This seems like almost you are going to a place that you really would not like to go unless you really don't have any other choice.
Well, I will tell you that we have thought about doing a renovation of the storefront appearance. We are also looking at and have looked at a new space, which is in the neighborhood, which is more modern. So if that option does not play out, we will plan to renovate the storefront. Yes.
I think we should be thinking, because we do send subtle messages with our kind of spaces, and this particular one may be sending a message that is not the one that we would like to intend. And I know that Christine understand very well from the work at DDC, the subtle kind of messages that are sent by the spaces, and perhaps Christine, you can think of, as you are looking at these facilities, that we have a consistent message of welcoming to all, and do not fall into a situation that we may be saying something that we don't want to say.
Understood.
Thank you.
Understood. I will work with Christine on a renovation plan for the storefront.
And there are things that could be done very inexpensively that shows that we care and we respect our patients and the people that we serve. And so we don't have to wait until a whole capital program, but I think there are ways that things can be shown very respectful and welcoming. With that, let me just ask for a vote. And Sally, I really apologize. I don't know why I have it written here twisted. So you should have told me from the first one. Okay. So I will take all in favor?
Aye. Yes.
Yes. Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Barbara, are you opposed?
Yes. No. Yes to everything.
Yes to everything. So maybe I should go. I just want to take like a voice vote. Everybody in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? No? Okay, the resolution passes to be forwarded to the board. Any other resolution, Christine?
Yes, 3. The next resolution, yeah. Authorizing New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation, New York City Health and Hospitals, to execute a customer installation commitment, CIC, with New York City Department of Citywide Administrative Services, DCAS, and the New York Power Authority, NYPA, for an amount not to exceed $27,714,280, including a 10% contingency of $2,040,842 for the planning, design, procurement, construction management, and project management services necessary for Phase 2 energy efficiency upgrades, the project, at New York City Health and Hospitals Lincoln, the facility. And now I have our Assistant Director, Marcus Lewis, who has joined us. I'll be presenting this project quickly at Lincoln Hospital. This is a second phase of ongoing energy efficiency projects at Lincoln Hospital, which has been working hard to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions with our energy team. We have a number of MEP systems that have exceeded their useful life. And what we are always trying to do as we look at HVAC and mechanical replacements is identifying major efficiency opportunities to drive energy savings as well. We have Phase 1 work, which involves upgrading 21 of the facility's 39 air handling units, and the replacement of over 100 induction units, and upgrading of over 200 wireless thermostats, as well as replacement of 5,000 fluorescent lightings to LED lightings on the 1st through 3rd floors. Phase 2 also involves upgrading the remaining air handling units, replacing 200 additional induction units, upgrading lighting on floors 4 through 12, elevator modernizations that include energy saving aspects to elevator work, and chiller and riser upgrades in the building. We also have replacement of light fixtures in the parking garage and the exterior, and upgrade of the building management system. Our relationship with the Power Authority is administered through the Encore 2 agreement. This is an Encore 2 agreement. I just recently signed the Encore 3 agreement, which is a multi-party agreement between all of the city organizations here that DCAS leads that negotiation and facilitates for on behalf of our organization, as well as multiple city agency partners. NYPA is the lead organization procuring all services for this, and we're working closely with NYPA as our partner who's helping us deliver this work. They have bid out this work under the Design Build New York City Public Works Investment Act that went into effect December 31st of 2019. Through that process, they selected Guth DeCunzo as the construction manager. The construction manager was acquired through competitive bidding, and that construction manager administered the procurements that are shown through this total project. NYPA has an active diversity supplier program, including a 30% MWBE goal. Guth DeCunzo for this project, which as you saw by the scope, we have a lot of smaller projects throughout this program. And so there's a number of prime firms awarded work across all of these different projects. This has allowed opportunities both for prime and sub-consulting opportunities. And across the Phase 2 program, we have a 33.27% subcontractor utilization plan, including only 3% of the 33.27 is supplies. Most of these are service contractors helping to deliver the work. The total contract amount is $20,081,884. And the projected completion for all of the Phase 2 work is December of 2022. Here is the budget for the Phase 2 work, showing you the costs associated with design, testing, and filing, construction itself, the special inspections, payment and performance bonds, contingency, which is the contingency of the construction, special inspections, and the bonds, as well as construction management costs for DeCoons and NYPA's project management fee. Additionally, there's interest during construction, totaling the total project budget of $27.7 million. And this is the resolution itself. We're happy to take any questions regarding this resolution.
Thank you, Christine. Jose?
No questions. Thank you.
Scott?
No questions. Thank you.
Barbara?
No questions.
Thank you. Sally?
No questions, Penny.
Matt? Okay, I think Frida is also have to. Okay. So we still have quorum. So I will no question. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? The resolution passed, and so we are commissioned to the board. Next one.
Thank you. The next resolution is authorizing New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation, NYC Health and Hospitals, to execute a customer installation commitment, CIC, with the New York Power Authority, NYPA, for an amount not to exceed $12,622,632, including a 10% contingency of $969,582 for the planning, design, procurement, construction management, and project management services necessary for the chiller plant upgrade, the project at New York City Health and Hospitals Metropolitan, the facility. This project is a critical one for Metropolitan, who currently has two 1,150-ton chillers and 3 Marley cooling towers. The facility's existing cooling tower capacity is 2,300 tons, which is below the cooling needs for the space it currently serves. The facility's chillers are beyond their useful life. 2 of the 3 Marley coolers were upgraded in 2007, but the third tower that was installed in 1998 is not in service today due to the severe, extensive condition of the cooling tower, which is in very poor shape. I visited it on my first tour of Metropolitan. It was one of the biggest challenges that they were concerned about. With Epic introduced into our system and at Metropolitan, the IT server closets installed throughout the facility's main building over the past year really do not have adequate cooling in place, and it's impossible for us to address this without this critical project being introduced into the facilities. This project will demolish and remove the existing two 1,500 chillers and install 2 new 25-ton chillers with freestanding variable frequency drives, increasing the facility's total cooling capacity by 50% from 2,300 tons to 3,450 tons, and it will also drive substantial energy efficiency with the variable frequency drives. The project will also replace one existing Marlin cooling tower with a new cooling tower and install new fan coil systems for our IT server closets in the facility's main building. This just shows you a prototype of the new chiller and cooling tower. So when we talk about these big pieces of equipment, you can see visually what they look like. They're very important, very behind the scenes, and without them, we cannot survive. Again, this is a NYPA contract, and so I already spoke to this relationship, but this shows you the relationship of ourselves with NYPA and the work that they're doing throughout our city to help us drive energy efficiency and reduce our carbon footprint. The procurement path here. This project was also bid out under the design build contract that the city has under the Public Work Investment Act. They selected also Guth DeCunzo as the construction manager, and that construction manager, those services were acquired through a competitive process, and that firm also bid out this work to 3 bidders, Carrier, Dynamic, and Interstate Mechanical, who submitted bids for the project. The lowest qualified bidder was Carrier Corporation, and there was a 30% MWBE goal for this project. For this project, there is a 36% subcontractor utilization plan that's listed here, largely actually with all service providers that will be supporting Carrier for this install. The contract amount here is $8,831,000. The MWBE amount is $3,186,633. The project is projected to be complete in March of 2022. And the evaluation of Carrier based upon reviews we found in Passport included excellent on 3 separate evaluations submitted by NYPD. The budget for this project is shown here for the total project budget of $12,622,632. This shows you the cost of design, construction, the alternates in the project should it fit the budget, payment and performance bonds, contingency, construction management, NYPA's project management fee, as well as interest during construction. And finally, the resolution is on our last slide. And myself and Marcus Lewis, our Assistant Director of the Energy Team, are available for questions.
Thank you, Christine. I shut you all for questions. Jose, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Scott?
No questions.
Barbara?
No questions. Thank you.
Sally? Okay. So I think you said no questions, Sally. You were muted. Mike? No question for me. So let me ask, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? The resolution passes. Thank you. After this, I have to recuse myself. Jose is going to take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Feniaski.
Thank you. I will be recusing myself as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oscar will be presenting the next one.
Okay, so our last resolution for today is authorizing the New York City Health and Hospitals Corporation to negotiate and execute requirements contracts with 7 construction management consultant firms, namely AECOM USA, Arman Corporation, Gilbane Building Company, Jacobs Project Management Company, McKissick & McKissick, TDX Construction Corporation, the McLeod Group LLC, to provide professional CM services on an as-needed basis at various facilities throughout the corporation. The contracts will be for a term of 3 years with 2 one-year options for renewal, solely exercisable by NYC Health and Hospitals, for a cumulative amount not to exceed $10 million for services provided by all such consultants. Oscar Gonzalez? Hi.
Thank you, and good morning to everybody. My name is Oscar Gonzalez, Assistant Vice President of Office of Facilities Development, here to request to negotiate and execute requirements contracts for construction management services. Brief overview, H&H requires professional construction management services on an as-needed basis. This is essentially an extension of our staff in order to be able to support our design and construction projects that we have. Specific services would tie into scheduling, inspecting of the work, budget management, the analysis, investigation, and so on. In addition to that, they would also provide types of testing and laboratory analysis, as well as qualified inspectors. Our current contracts in place for CM services expire on December 31st, 2020. The total pool value currently is $15 million, and the current spend for CM services is $7,644,405. The term of the contract was 3 years on a 2 one-year options to renew. The RFP criteria for this included a MWBE utilization plan, minimum 5 years of satisfactory experience within healthcare, and licensed professionals here in the state of New York. The RFP criteria was 25% for approach and methodology, 25% for firm experience, 25% for staff experience, 15% for the MWBE utilization plan, and 10% for the cost. Our evaluation committee consisted of 2 representatives from OFD, 1 representative from Metropolitan, 1 from Kings, 1 from Queens, and 1 from EITS. Brief overview on the procurement. CRC approved an application to issue solicitation back on October 29, 2019. On February 6th, the RFP was sent directly to vendors and posted on City Record. On February 14th, there was a mandatory pre-proposal conference where 40 vendors attended. And the proposal was due on February 28th, where we received 19 proposals. Slight delay due to COVID, but in September, we picked up where we left off. We reviewed the proposals, and based on the natural scoring criteria, we invited 12 CM firms to come back and present. 3 of those 12 were MWBE firms. On October 15th, we scored the presentations, and we selected a total of 7 firms. 3 of those 7 firms are MWBE firms. Sorry, I keep forgetting to flip over. Oh, you got it. Okay. Here on this slide, you'll see the firms that were selected. The ones with the asterisks are the MWBE firms, highlighting Armand, McKissick, and the McLeod Group. All their evaluation criteria that we were able to research resulted in good or excellent standing on prior work. Some of the work included was with other agencies, DDC and DEP. So these contracts will be for 3 years, with 2 1-year options to renew, effective no later than January 1st of 2021. Total pool contract value will be $10 million. And they all include a 30% MWB utilization plan. The next slide will show you the selected firms and their subcontractors and their MWB participation goals. So that'll be the next 2 slides, and then you'll have the resolution in the back. I'll take any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Any questions from committee members?
No questions.
Okay, so I'll ask for a vote now. Barbara Lowe?
No questions. Thank you.
Barbara, do you want to vote? I'll go back to you in a second. Sally Hernandez Piñeiro?
Yes.
Scott French?
Yes.
Matt Ziegler?
Yes.
Matt? Barbara Lowe?
Yes.
Thank you. And Jose Pagan, yes. Thank you so much, Oscar.
Thank you.
Any other business to come before the committee or new business? Okay, hearing none, then the meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.